Hello, YouTubers. If you're new to the channel, my name is Roy. I'm married to a Filipina. That's, of course, why our channel is called Married to a Filipina. And, I try to give the best advice I can, especially if you're a gentleman my age or older and you're thinking about moving to the Philippines. A while back, I did a video called When Good Plans Go Bad. And that's a real touchy subject, especially if you're one of them gentlemen that want to come to the Philippines and you're on a limited budget. You think, oh wow, I can live in the Philippines like a king on what I get for Social Security. And I hear a lot of gentlemen that say, well, I'm self-insured. And that's a nice thought. It's a nice thought to think that, okay, you can come to the Philippines and let's say that your Social Security is between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, and you're going to self-insure. Well, just a short stay in the hospital, if you were there for any length of time at all, and let's say that you were a really diligent individual. Every month you put a couple $100 into your self-insurance, and you end up in a hospital stay for a few days. It's totally wiped out. So there's ways to prevent that. And I think that you have to look at this realistically, and as an adult, not paint a fallacy, so to speak, of I'm going to move to the Philippines and I'm going to be happy ever after. It's a nice thought, but we're an older machine. We're going to break. So let's set up the scenario. Okay, I'm a veteran, so I get my health care a very, very low cost. So I have Medicare Part A. Am I going to choose Medicare Part B at some point? I may. I'm not at full term yet to do that because I'd have to be 66 in 8 months. And that's to be seen because there are some plans out there that coincide with the VA. Humana has one. And I'm not going to throw any of that out there to confuse anybody. But recently, I had a friend of mine that has no health insurance and very little income. And he was sick, ended up in the hospital. The YouTube community and a bunch of friends came together to take care of his bill. That's great. That's his situation, but I'm not going to put myself in that situation. I also have another gentleman that I know. He's just an acquaintance, but he came down with Guillain-Barré disease. He was bedridden for quite some time. He pulled through that like a trooper. And then he got sideswiped going down the road, ended up in a hospital on a hit and run. Okay, all them things are real. So I was sitting here thinking, since we had just went through this ordeal with my friend Monty, and I was thinking, what's the best solution for me? And if I start looking at, say, Pacific Cross Insurance, that's going to cost me roughly 150,000 pesos a year. So you can do the math. It's a little less than $3,000. I'm insured. I can get a private room. I'm covered up to 2 or 3 million, depending on which plan it is. It fluctuates, and there again, there's a gentleman called Michael Onstead. He's more than happy to explain all that to you. I'm not going to get into that. But I was an insurance agent at one point in my life. And so I know how important that is when something goes wrong. And of course, there's PhilHealth. That'll give you a 25% reduction in your cost. It's very, very inexpensive. So putting them two things together for me personally, I'm thinking it's going to cost me around $200 or so a month to have decent insurance. Well, my wife is coming along. Okay, so I'm going to have to add her. She's going to have insurance. She has insurance in the United States. When we get to that point, I'll find out how much coverage she has, if any, going to another country for X amount of time, because we plan on going back and forth at 6 months. And I suggest that anyone do that. Don't just think of your health, think of your spouse or your children, everyone's, and make sure that you have a plan in place. So let's say we have a pretty good plan in place. It's cost me roughly $300 a month. I chose not to do Medicare Part B, which is $197. So in real money, it cost me an extra $100 a month. And my wife has coverage over there. Okay, everything is hunky-dory, right? Well, What happens if I got hit on say on a scooter, walking across the road, something severe, you're end up laying in the street, you're in a coma. That's a real situation that could happen. At that point, you need an exit plan of some kind. Um, how how are they going to obtain your health to the point that you could possibly fly home? Maybe you never could fly home. And I think that's a reality that you have to face. You know, it's like going to an island paradise is one thing, um, but realizing what could happen while you're there is another. Let's say you have a stroke and a heart attack, or both. You know, you're bedridden, you can't speak, you can't walk. Okay, I'm sure that if I had an exit plan, my wife could get me back to the United States for long-term care, but I have to put that plan in place. And that also means that I need to have money in the bank if or when that time comes. And I think that you need to factor that in, you know, when you go to the Philippines, because you hear so many vloggers saying, oh, I can live on $1,000 a month, or I can live on 1,500. And I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that. You know, it's no different than you could probably live on 1,500 a month here in the United States if you pick the right particular place to live. Um, and you'd have your health care. So you have to really weigh out the pros and cons. You know, I happen to love the Philippines. I love my wife's family. I love the Filipino people. And I have several friends in the Philippines. And I want to spend my latter years there. But I have to also prepare for what may be coming. You know, I don't think I'm going to live forever. It's just one of them things that just not going to happen. And you know, if it happened to him, it could just as well happen to me. So it's like, you know, I got to prepare for that. And I've done the math. You know, if we move down south, say Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kansas, Missouri, there's a lot of places that are relatively cheap to live. Even here in northern Wisconsin, we can live very, very reasonably cheap. I don't like the winters any longer. I mean, we do snowmobile, and we plan on doing a lot more of that this year. But that's a reality. We want to be where it's warm for the winter, so it's going to be to the Philippines. So when you factor in that budget, you know, especially the people that are on a real tight budget. See, I'm still working. So for me, I can work and set aside what I need for my future because I don't want to be in that position. For the gentlemen that say they're retired now and you got that 1,500 or 2,000 a month Social Security, if that's all you have, you better be a little better prepared than saying, I'm going to be self-insured. You need to get yourself a credit card or two, something in case something tragically happens and you can pay that bill because they may not release you from the hospital until you pay it. So it can put you in a pretty bad position. And also have your contacts at home. You know, several months ago, over a year ago now, there was a gentleman that was living on the beach. A bunch of YouTubers came together and got him back to the United States. And that shouldn't happen. You know, that should not happen. A good plan that would have never happened. You need an out. I mean, I don't know what it would be like to be stranded in the Philippines. No friends, no money, no relatives to bail me out. I couldn't be there. When we go to the Philippines, we're going to have more than one avenue of contact in the United States in case something did happen. You know, one of my son-in-laws or my sisters or friends are going to be aware where we live, and my wife will have all the contact information in case something happens, that she can immediately call and get contacts, access to the bank, everything that has to be in place. You know, you can't live your life like it's never going to. And after this last bout with a buddy of mine and his heart attack, I just thought, you know, that's great. Everyone came together to help him. That's wonderful. But it's not if this happens again, it's when. And that really becomes quite scary. So, you got to think about that, especially if you have ongoing health conditions already. I have a friend of mine that has a autoimmune deficiency, lives in the Philippines. Costs him $300 a month to fly his meds over. It's part of reality, and you have to add that into your budget. Um, I know it's nice to watch all these wonderful YouTube videos and people on the beach and all the pretty girls and all the beautiful sights and think, well, man, I can go there on $1,500 a month and live happily ever after. And I'm telling you the truth, that's a pipe dream. That's a pipe dream, because something is going to happen. And if you're lucky enough, it'll happen when you're in the United States, where at least you have access through Medicare or through the VA like I do, to have things taken care of. I know that if something tragically happens to me here, I am covered. In fact, I can through it's called the Mercy Act with the Veterans Administration. I can go right here to my local hospital and walk in the door, and it's literally cost me pennies. I think it's $15. It's really cheap, and that's wonderful to have. But I know that when I get to the Philippines, I'm not a retired veteran, so I don't have TRICARE. I don't have access to the hospital in Manila. I have to pay just like everyone else. And I'm not going to put my wife or my children or my family or my friends in a dire spot because I didn't prepare, especially for me, because I have time to prepare. We're working on our 5-year plan. If you watched any of our other videos, you're probably aware of that. And it's like, any part of this plan that doesn't come together, we're not going. Even though I love the Philippines so much and I love the Filipino people, then we would reduce our time there if we had to, if it'd be a month at a time or 2 months at a time, whatever it might be. But we have to take on that responsibility ourselves. So when someone tells you, hey, come on, move to the Philippines, it's only going to cost you $1,000 or $1,500 a month, start asking yourself all the other pertinent information that you need to know. Your health care, long-term care. What if you're in a hospital for months on end? If you had a horrible stroke or a heart attack, open heart surgery, whatever it may be, got the Guillain-Barré disease like Jules did, and be laid up for months on end. And if you're going there alone, that's even worse. Now you don't have anyone to watch your back. What if you had a stroke? What if you couldn't speak? You couldn't move your hands or your arms? How are you going to call someone? How are you going to reach out? You got to think of all of them things and formulate a plan a long time before it ever happens. Because the truth of the matter is that at our age, we don't know when that day is coming. And I'd like to think that I'm going to live to be 100 years old, and it's probably not going to happen. And the other day when I was thinking about this, Ryan O'Neal passed away at 82, and I was thinking, wow, I remember when he was a young man. I remember a love story and how he was married to Farrah Fawcett. It seemed like it was yesterday. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't yesterday, and I'm getting a lot older than I used to be. And them things come to me too, and we all are going to have to face our own mortality. And we can make our mortality a burden on anyone and everyone around us, or we can prepare. And sometimes that's a real soul-searching, humbling thing. 2 years ago, my mom passed away. She had a heart attack and went in the hospital. And luckily enough, we flew there before she passed, so we did get to speak with her and so forth. But she had everything in place. And she had a do not resuscitate, which I tell you what, I don't ever want to go through that again, because there was help there that she could have taken, but she chose not to, because she was 91 and she didn't want to be a burden to anyone else. And she faced death square in the eye. And I give her credit for all the courage man, it was so heartbreaking for us to watch her go through that. So when you think you're going to pack up and head to the Philippines and live on that wonderful island, no matter where it may be, man, you better consider what your options are as far as when your health goes to pieces. Um, we we had looked at some properties on Sikihor. That happens to be our favorite island. It's a gorgeous little island off of Negros. And the first thing that came to my mind, what about the hospital? Well, that I guess they've built a new hospital now. But if you had something dramatic happen, a stroke, a heart attack, something of that nature, you're either going to have to be flown out of there or wait for a ferry. I tell you what, I don't want to be in that position. And I don't want to put my loved ones in that position either, watching me slowly die while we're waiting for a ferry. And I want to make sure that I have enough coverage that if I go to a hospital, they don't have to endure me dying out in the street, so to speak, because I haven't planned for the future. And I know that each and every one of you don't want to do that to someone else either. So, please be responsible and and make the plan for you that works. So, because it's not when a bad plan goes good or vice versa, you can make it all happen. And I know that a lot of us, including myself, have lived like there's no tomorrow. But when you start getting our age, you realize that I can just about see the last of tomorrows. And it's a pretty tough thing, but it's the right thing to do, and make sure that you have everything in place so you're not a huge burden on your family or your friends. And because I see so many people that go over there and I've talked with them. I said, what do you do about if you get sick? Well, I'm self-insured. Well, that's great if you're healthy, but one moment you are and the next moment you're not, especially at our age when it comes to a stroke or a heart attack. So I hope I didn't tell you too much morbidity here, or maybe pop your bubble, so to speak. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and so you can prepare to get over that island paradise right along with me. And on that note, have a great day. Hope to see you soon.